Well, let's hope she be on time for all that.
I know, right? I think your camera's frozen.
I see that. All right, it's back now.
Good, good.
I hate when people are squirrely and you don't know if they're local, so you're really not in control of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Lord Jesus.
People are crazy.
Yes, Lord.
There's this kid song that
Is she Jana?
Yeah.
She's in the waiting room.
Good. Hello, Miss Jana.
Good morning.
Hey, you're muted. Can you unmute?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Hi.
Hey.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
We're doing well, thanks. On this dreary rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like a good day to be cozy inside.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and make you a co-host so that you have the ability to share your screen.
Okay.
Catherine, are you able to make her a co-host? Because I don't.
Oh, I see. I'm the host. Apologies. Yes.
No. It's fine. All righty.
All right, Jenna, you're a co-host now. So would you just check and make sure that gives you screen share privileges?
Sure. Did it work?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
All righty. So when you're announced, when you're presented, what's your title?
The revolving loan fund manager.
Okay. All right. And is Sharon planning to be on right at 10 o'clock?
I think she is. Yeah. Yes. Or slightly earlier, but she knows that she needs to be here.
Jana, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm not familiar with the RLF at all, and so I'm excited to learn all about it.
Oh, good.
How long have you been in this role?
Just for a year. So I'm still learning a lot. Fortunately, our finance director is a very good mentor. So when I don't have answers, I write them all down. I'll write the questions down and go straight to her, and she always helps me out.
That's wonderful. That's really invaluable.
It truly is, because this program is kind of nuanced. There's some strict guidelines that can't budge on, but then there's a lot of flexibility too. So sometimes you have to take each loan on basically a case-by-case basis, because everybody has like their own little financial issues, which is why they, a loan program like this would be better than a conventional loan. Banks are much more stringent across the board.
That makes sense. What kind of things do people normally use the loan for?
So since I've been with the council, people are using the loans to purchase machinery and equipment and to renovate or purchase the buildings that they've been leasing.
Okay.
Like a lot of small business owners, they might have roof or facade issues that they want to improve. We've had a accounting firm that they've been leasing for 1.5 years, and we were able to help them actually buy the property. So now,
That's
they're
so
the
cool.
owners. But then we work with people like farmers who need a hay baler or a tractor or that type of thing. We have helped trucking company, like very small scale trucking companies, buy a new semi so that they can add another driver to their.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that type of thing.
Okay, that sounds much more broad than I was envisioning. One of our members called this morning and was saying like, I'm so excited about this webinar. I need equipment. I need an office. And I was like, hold on, let's wait and see like what you can actually use the money for.
Well, and that's so that, you can use the money. The issue that I want to make sure that I emphasize is that there's a collateral piece that we have to follow. It's an EDA regulation. And that can be a sticking point, but sometimes we can kind of work with the organization to figure out a way that we can collateralize the loan
Gotcha.
one way or another. And so that's where we found the biggest, one of the biggest obstacles is because lots of times if you have the collateral to secure the loan, then why do you need the loan? Like,
right.
That's kind of the blunt way to put it, but we have to cover the risk. And, if it helps you scale up your business, then it's worth it. Or do whatever you need to do. And one thing that we found that works is sometimes we can actually use the equipment depending on if the equipment devalues, if it depreciates very quickly, it's not very good collateral. But if it's something that holds its value for a while, then you can sometimes use that equipment as the collateral itself.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's some fancy footwork.
Right. And that can work like with that accounting business. We loaned them the money to buy the property, and then they put us as the first mortgage holder of the property. And then once they finish off making their payments, they become, they hold the mortgage again.
And what would be the incentive for them to utilize this loan fund as opposed to a commercial mortgage loan?
Well, that's a good question. Our interest rates are fixed at 5 to 6%. So they're not going to go higher than that. And we structure the actual loan so that it works for them, for the borrower, like the payment terms. For example, for like a property, if we can use property as the collateral, then the loan term can be 10 to 15 years. And there's no penalty for paying off early. So you've got a long payoff time, a relatively low interest rate, and we require interest-only payments for the first 3 months. We try to work with the borrower essentially.
That's amazing. That's way better than most commercial mortgage loans.
Yeah, it's just, getting through the initial hoops. But yeah, I think for the right fit, it's a great program. Hey, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
Hello, how are you ladies?
Good
Good.
Good morning.
Sharon, I haven't gotten to actually meet you in person. I'm Catherine, and I'm the former coordinator of the CSWG. And so I feel like you're a celebrity in that world. It's good to see your face.
It's good to see you as well, Catherine. I've been following you, so I know your path and your work great work. So thank you.
Thank you. That's so kind of you to say. We're really looking forward to this event, and Jana was just kind of filling me in on some of the background of the loan fund. It sounds like a really incredible opportunity.
It is, and Jana's great to work with.
It sounds like it.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about nonprofit access as well. It's an area of the loan fund I'm not really familiar with, so I'm looking forward to that.
Sharon, are you the CEO of Impact Foods? How would you like to be introduced today?
That's great.
Okay. So I'll be on the first couple minutes, and then I'm actually doing a training for agency in our training room today. So then I'm gonna just kind of slide off, and Catherine will take it for the remainder of the training.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Sounds great.
I'm gonna move. I've got a cat that keeps wanting to poke its head in. Hold on.
Okay.
Kat, will you send another reminder to those that are already registered? Just because it's raining and, you know.
And we've loaned to nonprofits with our original loan fund, but we haven't done any recently. And so, you know, we're kind of going into a new frontier for me. And so, you know, just to let you know that I don't have examples that are nonprofit specific, but, you know, they can be transferred to that arena.
And most people who we work with, a lot of people on the call today have never been able to secure any type of loan funding. So I think you'll get a lot of questions along those lines. A couple people already called this morning asking about it. So I think some of the things that you were sharing earlier about the low interest rates and the collateral and that type of thing, it'll be good to pull those up, because most of these individuals didn't get PPP, or, you know, the program that was done through FAMU was amazing. And we know a couple, you know, women entities that got that, but most of these people didn't. So they're like, oh my God, it's a loan for nonprofits. So, you know, it'll be good to capitalize on that.
Okay, great.
And if you do have anything top of mind, either of you, that could be offered to executive directors who are running kind of a grassroots organization and would be basing their application off of their own personal financial history, which may not be sufficient to qualify them. That was one of the questions that we received this morning of like, okay, so I have bad credit, like what kind of remediation would you recommend that I do to be, you know, to start working on that now that I know about this fund, you know, that could be my goal. I don't know if you are familiar with any resources, but if anything comes to mind, sharing that I know would be beneficial to our members.
Okay. So, are they familiar? I mean, I guess FAMU Small Business, they probably are. Do they help nonprofits? Do we know?
They had a special program for minority women entities. Some of those were businesses for profit. Some of those were nonprofit. But like I said, I think the big thing is, the bottom line is, people want to know if it's a way for them to get funded, what do they need to do, and how can they qualify, and what makes this program unique. And I think with Sharon telling a little bit of her story and testimony, a lot of people know her for the work she's done professionally and in the community. I think that's going to be great for people.
Okay.
I may also talk a little bit about social impact work, which is, really taking your passion for service and what's traditionally known as in the not-for-profit world, and really structuring yourself as a for-profit entity, that there are ways that you can do that. And that may be another, whether it's the Appalachian Regional Planning Council or others, that's another path to potential funding that may, not-for-profits may be shut out, but if you kind of either have an arm or can reinvent yourself in a for-profit way, that may be an option also.
Yeah. That would be really helpful, Sharon. We work with a number of members who are working that same path from one direction or another. Either they're for profit, like they, have a private therapy practice of some kind, and they're like, wow, I'm doing so much pro bono work. Like I really need to, get that 501c3. I need to get some funding to help support this work that I'm doing, or vice versa. They've got the 501c3, they're rolling with their nonprofit, and they're like, hey, we got to make some extra money. Like there's some services that we could offer on the side for profit that would kind of ease the financial stress. So I think that there would be a good appetite for that for sure.
Okay, great.
LaShawn, would you like for me to start admitting people, or you want to hold off for a couple more minutes?
Let's give it 2 more minutes. And then we'll get started.
Find it.
All right, Kat, let's let them in and we'll let the others come in as they come in. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Hey, Russell, how are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
Good, good. Glad you could join us this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey,
Glad
man.
to be here.
Donna, Quay.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, hey. There's Miss Edith. So we're going to go ahead and get started with introductions. I know we have a full presentation, and then we want to leave lots of room for questions at the end. So good morning, everybody. Most people I know, but I'm LaShawn, the Director of Strategic Initiatives here at UPHS. And we have my colleague, Catherine Register, who's our program coordinator, and she specializes in communications and membership. Most of you all have got a chance to meet Catherine by email, at least by now. So she's on the call. We're excited today. We have with us Miss Jana Williams, who is the revolving loan manager for the nonprofit access to ARPC program. And then we also have with us Sharon James, who is the CEO of the Impact Food Groups, who you'll hear from throughout the presentation, and get some great information from her as well, and a little testimony about the loan program. This is an open discussion, lots of information, but it is open, and you all will have an ample opportunity to ask your questions and that sort of thing, because we want to make sure that you all have as much support as possible to continue to do the great work you're doing. So as people come in the waiting room, we'll let them in. And you can feel free to put your questions in the chat. Jana, we're going to kick it to you so we can get started.
Okay, great. Thank you, LaShawn. I really appreciate it. Just to reiterate, if people have questions, just pipe in and let me know what if I need to clarify something, or if I can define anything, just let me know how we can to make this presentation as informative as possible. Like LaShawn said, I'm the Revolving Loan Fund Manager at the Appalachia Regional Planning Council. And so I thought first we should just very briefly talk about what a Regional Planning Council is. We are a quasi-governmental organization that's recognized by Florida statutes, and were created by interlocal agreements between local governments. And so the Appalachia Regional Planning Council, we cover a 9-county region that includes Jackson, Calhoun, Gulf, Liberty, Gadsden, Leon, Wakulla, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. And so what we aim to do is assist these counties and their municipalities in any type of technical assistance and planning work that they might need help with. And that could include environmental, housing, emergency management services, GIS services, and economic development. I'm part of the economic development team at the ARPC, and I came into my role last year to manage the Revolving Loan Fund Program. I wanted to briefly talk about what a revolving loan fund is. Because to be honest with you, I wasn't too familiar with it when I started with the ARPC myself. A revolving loan fund is an economic development tool that gives loans to qualified small businesses and nonprofits whom either do not qualify for traditional lending programs or whom are unable to receive the entire loan amount that they've requested from a bank. The purpose of the loans is to help local businesses and not-for-profits expand and succeed in the short term in order to create more jobs within the local economy in the long term. The reason why these types of loans are known as revolving loans is because they're essentially self-replenishing. It's a self-replenishing pool of money that utilizes the interest and principal payments on current loans to issue new ones. So as the loans are repaid by the current borrowers, they're reinvested by the ARPC in the form of new loans to other borrowers. And in that way, the loan repayments are recycled into new loans. The ARPC Revolving Loan Fund Program aims to help businesses and not-for-profits who don't qualify for traditional financing. They might have a credit score issue. They might have had some financial problems in the past. We try to work with those entities that have been declined, and because our loans are people loans, we're making the time and investment in the organizations and the missions of the organizations and the people. So we're taking into consideration more than just the financial metrics sometimes. The ARPC program, the Revolving Loan Fund Program, started in 1984 with an initial award from the Economic Development Administration of $1.3 million. And over the past 30 years, we've been able to turn this original sum of money into $5 million worth of loans to small businesses and nonprofits in our region. So the reason why I was invited on board was to run the Revive program and the CARES Act program. Both of these were awarded to the ARPC last summer. The CARES Act Revolving Loan Fund was just over $500,000, and it applies to business and nonprofits in Calhoun, Gadsden, Gulf, Franklin, Jackson, Jefferson, Liberty, and Wakulla counties. Since the inception of that program, we've loaned out about, let's see, $480,000. So there's only $100,000 remaining in this pot right now. The Revive Revolving Loan Fund, on the other hand, is specifically for businesses and nonprofits in Leon County, and we still have $700,000 in there that we need to deploy and get out in the community, because once that money is loaned out and it starts, it starts making its revolving, it's in the community for good. It doesn't go back to the federal government, and that's why we need to get it pushed out. And that's why we wanted to inform more people about the program today. So we can get into some of the nitty-gritty eligibility requirements. Some basic things that you need to know is that the organization that asks for the loan needs to demonstrate that one job will be retained or created for every $20,000 that's borrowed. So for example, if you are looking for a $40,000 loan, then you need to have 2 employees that you can say, well, this loan is going to help us save these 2 jobs. And if you can say you're creating more jobs, that's even better. And that's the ultimate goal. The borrower needs to secure the loan with collateral that's equal to the amount of the loan. This one is kind of a toughie sometimes, because if you have the collateral, then would you really need the loan? You know, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. But the idea is that since we're not a bank, we need to cover our risk somehow, so that, let's say the loan is defaulted and not paid, then that amount of money is no longer available to another not-for-profit or another business. So we need to cover the risk. So I will go back to the collateral issue in a few more slides, so that I can kind of talk about different ways to address collateral. But I just wanted to make that clear, that the loan request must be secured by collateral. And then the loan closing documents must be signed by a guarantor, regardless of whether the borrower is a small business owner or a nonprofit. I've talked to a few nonprofits where their board policies state that the board of directors itself cannot be the guarantor for a loan. There has to be someone that's willing to sign the closing documents. And that is a policy that we cannot work around. So what can the loans be used for? They can be used for the purchase of commercial land and buildings. So for example, we've had an accounting business recently who'd been leasing for the past 2 years. They borrowed money to purchase the land in the office building. So now they're the property owners, they're no longer just paying rent. And they used that property and the building as the collateral for the loan, which is one way you can work with the whole collateral issue. You can also borrow money for commercial construction and renovation. For example, if you need to make improvements to the facade of a building or repair roofs. Machinery and equipment are another use for the loans. That could be anything from farm equipment to restaurant equipment to office equipment, anything in that realm. Working capital, we've had people use the loans so that they can cover payroll and that type of thing if they're working with another federal program like Medicare, where it takes a while for the checks to come back to the organization. We've had them use the loan to cover payroll and operating expenses while waiting for that. And professional contract services, such as like, in employing a marketing firm or advertising agency or a website developer. Those type of services are also allowable uses with the loan. Loans may not be used for refinancing existing debt, lines of credit, or anything involved in residential construction and renovation, because that is held under the purview of the Housing and Urban Development and USDA. And so the EDA doesn't want to step on those federal agencies' toes. Now I'll talk about the loan conditions and terms. The loan size can be anywhere between $5,000 and $100,000. The interest rate is 5 to 6% fixed for the length of the loan. And so we're not going to go lower, but we're not going to go higher. The loan term ranges from 3 to 15 years, depending on the type of collateral used to secure the loan and the rate of depreciation, that collateral. So machinery and equipment, they depreciate much faster than real estate does. So if you were to use a machine or equipment as your collateral, your loan term might be 3 to 5 years. Whereas if you could secure the loan with property, with real estate, then that could be stretched to a 10 to 15 year loan. And we allow interest only payments for the first 3 months. And we customize a monthly payment structure depending on the loan applicant's cash flow, because ultimately we want to make sure that, you know, the loan gets repaid, your organization is successful, and that allows future organizations to also take part in the program. And there's one non-refundable $100 fee, and that's required upon loan closing. We handle the loan closings ourselves, and the $100 to cover different recording fees and that type of thing. Does anybody have any questions just yet before I kind of continue on?
I have a quick question, Jana. Is the $100 fee the only closing cost associated with the loan?
Yes, it is.
Wow, that's awesome.
Jana,
Now, let's say, I'm going to take that back and say that, let's say someone secures a loan with property. If we make sure we do a title search, property search. If the taxes on that property are unpaid, then we're going to ask that, you know, those taxes get paid, so everybody's, you know, not in arrears, and everybody starts off in a good place. So sometimes additional costs do pop up, but that's, you know, that's just to make sure everything is good. We are only charging the $100.
Jana, will you take a second on real estate?
Sure. Yes, we'll take a second on real estate. We've never done a third. So I think first or second that's it. Mm-hmm.
Does this apply to new programs?
Could you repeat that, please?
Does this credit issues and the building and everything that it entails for the loan apply to a new program?
Yes, it does. Yeah, so it also applies to startups. Yes.
What I mean is, like, if they don't have anything, they are beginning program and nothing has ever been offered to them or whatever, what would they use as collateral?
That's a great question. Well, it depends on what you were going to use the loan for. Because if you were going to use the loan for something, for an actual piece of equipment or a piece of property, then the idea could be that you could use that equipment as the collateral itself.
Yes, ma'am. I know you're very smart. You understand where I'm coming from a new program. Establishment, every building, every few people that can help to establish a little program.
Mm-hmm.
So what Ms. Edith is saying,
and all that.
So what Ms. Edith is saying, we've been working with, she's been a member like over a year, but she's a newer nonprofit. So she's getting her footing under her.
Mm-hmm.
So she's saying, like, literally, I'm new, you know, I don't have a lot of collateral. This funding would help her get off the ground, get her footing, and get a building, do some other stuff that she really wants to do. So I think she's asking,
mm-hmm.
realistically, does she have a shot at getting this funding?
You need to have some type of collateral.
Well, I've been renting at 603 Martin Luther King for 1 year plus. I just have to start somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to ask my question.
Oh, of course. Yes. Yes. And you know,
Janet,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you ever recommend that people use personal collateral for their organizational application.
That is definitely been done. In my years experience, people lots of times as long as they feel secure and it's financially feasible for them, then they will put down a second mortgage on this or that in order to secure the loan. So yes. And that's why we take the application process very seriously, because we don't want anybody to put themselves in a situation that leaves them feeling insecure. Should I continue or good? Okay, cool. So in terms of the requirements for the loan application itself, there's 5 forms. There's a loan application form, which is just general business information. And then the personal financial statement gives us an idea of the loan applicant's current business expenses and how the business expenses would change given the additional monthly loan payment. So we basically have you list out what your current expenses are. And then if we were to add, for example, a $200 a month loan payment to that list, we want to make sure that you can cover the payment. There's an assets and collateral form, and that's where you would put the collateral that you have available to secure the loan. And then a monthly personal income and expenses form. And this allows us to verify that based on your monthly income, the applicant can comfortably handle their personal expenses and aren't at risk of having their personal expenses carry over into their business expenses. So we just want to make sure that, it's financially feasible across the board. And then we also require several supplementary documents to support the information that you give us. And so if this is a startup, or a very new organization, then you might not have a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet. But if you do, we would like to see it. And the same goes for tax returns. We'd like to see personal or organizational tax returns for the past 2 years. We'd like you to report what your credit score is. We don't take the credit score as a main criteria, but we do like to know. And it's always good to see a business plan of some sort.
Jana, we have a question in the chat from Donna. She asks, will a 990N suffice for tax returns?
Let me find out from our financial director.
Thank you.
Sure. And whose question was that?
That's our friend Donna of Indaba Theater.
Okay. Great. So the loan application process can take around 2 months. So it's not the quickest program, but it gets the job done. So the first step would be expressing interest in the program and contacting me. You would submit your forms to us. The forms can be downloaded from our website, and I can also email them to you or mail them in the snail mail. The ARPC Loan Review Committee meets once a month. It's the 4th Thursday of every month. And we present the loan application. If the loan application is approved, then we send it to the Economic Development Administration Regional Office in Atlanta, and they review our recommendation. And if that's approved, then we go ahead and close the loan. If the ARPC Loan Committee doesn't approve the application, we will work with the applicant to kind of direct them on what needs to be remediated so that they can look for other funding opportunities or reapply again to our program. So that's kind of the general process. And we're available throughout the application process to answer questions. I've worked with applicants and answered the forms with them. You know, we go through each question and talk about it, and because sometimes the forms seem overwhelming, but they're not. You just tackle them in small bits, and it can get done relatively quickly. I thought I would talk about a few of the clients that we have and kind of what they do and how they secure their loans. We have a client, Dr. N. Wang. He owns a pharmacy in Leon County. And let me get my notes about him. He recently received a loan for $100,000. He secured it with the business property itself as a first mortgage on the business property. And they're an in-house pharmacy and healthcare clinic that provides personalized preventative medical care with an emphasis on the chronically ill. And they've been in business for about 13 years. And he wanted the loan so that they could scale up their business. Essentially, the pharmacy partnered with Medicare to launch 2 nurse services, a chronic care management and remote patient monitoring service. And these are telehealth and delivery services, which are especially great for chronically ill and elderly patients that live in rural areas. And so the loan has enabled the pharmacy to purchase larger quantities of medication at bulk pricing, which helps them maintain their inventory and lower pharmaceutical costs. And then right now, the loan is helping them, since they just partnered with Medicare and they've gotten the program rolling. This is one of those situations where it's taking some time for the check from Medicare to come back to pay the pharmacy. So he's able to use the loan to cover some of the payroll expenses, operating expenses, while they're waiting for that gap in time for the federal program to repay them. And so that is one example. Another example is a client in Chattahoochee, which is in Gadsden County. And this is a female business owner. She ran a childcare program. And this is the building itself. Still, in this picture, it still looks like a preschool. And she wanted to change her career path because her knees were bothering her. She had to get knee replacements. And so she is opening a 5-patient assisted living facility in this building. So she owned this building. And so she put, the building is the collateral for the loan for $30,000. And she had to buy a new HVAC, and then she needed to renovate the indoors so that it could facilitate the patients and not children. And so that's what she's been using her loan for. And finally, we get to Miss James and her excellent business, Impact Food Services Group. She's based in Tallahassee, and the loan amount was $35,000. Impact Foods is a social impact startup company, and they operate self-service micro groceries, essentially kiosks in locations across the city that allow people to buy fresh food out of a vending machine as opposed to canned or prepackaged foods. And I'll let Miss James kind of talk more about her experience with us and more about what Impact Food Services is doing as well.
Great, thank you, Jana. Good morning, everyone. As Jana mentioned, I'm Sharon James. I'm the CEO and founder of Impact Foods. Jana mentioned that Impact Foods is a social impact company, and essentially what that is a company whose mission is to address a social issue or a social challenge, very similar to many not-for-profits. The only difference is that the company is structured and operates as a for-profit entity. So our mission at Impact Foods is to address issues of food insecurity and improving access to healthier food options throughout the city of Tallahassee. So we now currently own and operate 10 fresh food kiosks in the city. And when we initially applied and was awarded the ARPC Revive loan, we had 5 kiosks, and we had been operating for a few months. The company recently started, actually. We were founded in May of 2020, and we placed our first kiosk in Tallahassee in November of 2020. It was a great experience working with Jana and ARPC. One of the great things that Jana hasn't touched on yet is that not only is ARPC a lender, but they also work to make sure that you're successful, and they are hands-on and provide great management consulting and marketing consulting services to the organizations that they fund. So they were helpful in me finding new placements, as well as having a great launch to the business, which really earned a lot of media attention and promotion, which helped the success of the business. So I'd love to answer any questions that you have about my experience with the Revive Loan Program or about Impact Food Services Group. Any questions? Great, thank you.
So Jana, do you have any more details about the loan fund that you'd like to run through with us? Oh, you're muted.
I want to emphasize that I would love to talk to anybody to find out, if they're interested in a loan, what the purpose of the loan is, and if there's a way that we can help. Because the program is structured so that it's kind of nuanced and it can be personally applied to each case on a case-by-case basis. It's not, a cookie cutter loan program.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's hard in a venue like this to kind of communicate that, because you could go down like wormholes on how, we worked to get a semi truck for, a company and what we needed to do in order to do that. And but I can go there. But the fact is, we want to see your organization succeed. And if we can find a way to make it happen, we're going to do that.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. We really love your vision. And I see, looking through the participants list, that almost everyone joining us on the call today is with a smaller organization, more on a grassroots level. And so I know that for our members who, are just in the startup phase, or maybe they've been kind of running a grassroots organization all by themselves for a long time, and they're not new to the work, but, they are new to the process of securing funding and kind of leveling everything up. I know a big concern for people in that situation is just the work of applying for something like this and getting everything together. Like, is it ultimately worth it? Because they already, are working more than full time as EDs, and they're stretched so thin. So Sharon, maybe that's something that you could speak to. Like, ultimately, did the benefit of participating in this program outweigh the effort that it took to kind of get integrated and get the application together?
I would say absolutely. And one example that I've used before is when I first found out about the loan opportunity, I reached out to Jana. Jana emailed me the application, and like anyone else, I looked at the list and I wasn't quite sure whether I had all of the information, or like you said, whether or not it was worth it. And so I was kind of dragging my feet on submitting the application. Jana followed up with me. And at the time, all I had done was I printed out the application documents and kind of hand wrote my responses in the, on the forms. And Jana told me to send that to her for her to take a look at and give me some feedback. And I did. And it was, it wasn't, normally I would wait and print it out and handwrite it and then go back and type it. But the fact that she took my application, my handwritten application as the start of the process, I think says a lot about just how open they are to working with you, and there's no pretense. And she made me feel really comfortable about they've seen everything in terms of credit score and where you are in your business, and even the fact that I was a startup. And I think this goes to Ms. Edith's question. My company was also a startup, and so all I could present really were my projections of what I expected to make. And so that was what I presented. I talked with them about that. Of course, I had to justify my numbers because they want to make sure that you're just not making things up off the top of your head. But as long as you can justify it, as Jana mentioned, I think that they would be willing to talk with you and consider it. And so I think it's definitely worth it, and it's not uncommon to be uncomfortable about having to release your personal financial information or your organization's financials. But again, I've worked with banks before, and this was so much better than the uncomfortable feeling of sitting across from, a bank rep. It was much more personal, much more flexible, and well worth it.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Sharon, just in hearing Jana's description and hearing your story about your experience applying. It made me think of when my husband and I were applying for an SBA small business loan for the business that we own. And it was a nightmare, I mean, talk about hoops to jump through. And it just sounds like this is rolling out in a way that's so much more personable and, lower barrier to so many of us who are just, getting our feet wet in this world of securing funding of different varieties. And Jana, I see that Miss Edith has another question.
Yes.
Miss Edith, will you come off mute, please? We still can't hear you.
Sorry,
There we
ma'am.
go.
There you go.
I apologize. I don't have a lot of questions. It's just an expression because I have been, this program has been in existence for over 1 year, as Ms. Lashanda mentioned. So my startup is just like, I have not put my hands on things to help me to establish very well. That's all I wanted to say, Miss Catherine. Thank you so very much.
We're thankful that you're here, Ms. Edith. And for all of you on the call today, I just want to remind you that, this is all about strategy and relationships. And having a relationship with someone like Ms. Jana, who knows about how the system works, is a really, really valuable resource to have in your organizational portfolio. So I would encourage you to reach out to her, even if you know for sure that you're not a good candidate for this at the moment. Part of being a leader of your organization is looking 2 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead. And so maybe, I know many of you on this call have just recently received the Leon County nonprofit grant funding. And, we really want to encourage you to be using that money or any other money that you receive in these early stages of building out your programs in a strategic way. So be thinking, okay, I don't have collateral now, But I know that if I come to Miss Jana in, 9 months and I've used this, $20,000 that I got to procure equipment that could be used as collateral, or I used it to, spruce up a property that I could use as collateral, then, you can go ahead and get that conversation started now. So Miss Jana can kind of, point you in the right direction of how to make yourself a highly qualified applicant when the time comes. And I see that we have a question from Miss Donna.
Yes, good morning. So I'm going to stick my neck out and put myself and my organization out there. We have recently acquired a theater space, but as I became a certified urban farmer, we have been looking at creating sustainability through community gardening. And also working with other urban farmers as a collective or a consortium. So several of the consortium members are interested in purchasing land actually in Gadsden County. There's an 11-acre tract which belongs to several family members on my side. And there's a loan out there now, it's called the Heirs Property Relending Program, where if a nonprofit or a person can show relationship, a family relationship to the owners, then that lending, they supposedly have an easy walkthrough process. And I know that in terms of purchasing with your loan program, you have to have collateral. So I guess my smaller question is, in purchasing that land, if say if we started with the 5 acres, and we can show 2 full-time, 2 part-time employees through, say, $100,000 loan, would that qualify? Is that enough of a qualifier with all the other paperwork things that go along with that?
Well, let's with the 5, I guess you would have to take into account for a $100,000 loan is the how much the property is valued for. So you want to, the property needs to equate to the value of the loan, essentially. And then in terms of the 2 full-time, 2 part-time, you would 2 part-time jobs for the Economic Development Administration equals 1 full-time job.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so then that would be 3 full-time jobs, so which would equal to like a $60,000 loan.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that it sounds really cool that what your plan is. It's a great plan.
Yeah, well, thank you. We have been working with a number of folks who have small garden plots here in the city. We've actually been given a plot here in the city. We have a small garden that we're creating in the back of our new space. And we've been applying for grants as well, but we really see an opportunity and a need for local food sources here.
That's great.
Thank you.
I see that Miss. Go ahead, Sharon.
No, I was just going to say one of the things that I would also add, having served on a number of local not-for-profit boards, is the value of the commercial property option. That's something that a lot of not-for-profits don't consider. And so if you are, if that's something that's on your radar, I would definitely recommend circling back to Jana to talk about that, because the availability of space and the affordability of commercial space in Tallahassee is often a challenge for not-for-profits. So if there's some way to make that happen or to consider that, I think that's something you may want to have an offline conversation with her about.
Absolutely.
And speaking of offline conversations, when with the blanket question of is it worth it? Honestly, don't fill out any forms. Call me first, and I'll let you know it's worth it after you explain what, what your intentions are, because in what, what collateral there is, because I don't want you to waste your time. I want, I want this to be mutually beneficial.
Mhm.
And it's not, that this is my job, is to take your phone calls and emails and work through it. So, don't, that, a 15-minute conversation could save you lots of headaches, future
Mhm.
headaches, or it can inspire us to come up with a plan to tackle the documents. So just, keep that in mind and give me a call. Like, we're not gonna be jerks or anything.
That's wonderful. And Edith, I see you've got your hand raised.
No,
Oh, okay.
that was before.
So-
Sorry about that.
Warren. Oh, go ahead, Kenny.
Jana,
Mhm.
in addition to collateral, do you require a personal guarantee?
We do. So, let's say we need a personal person at least to sign the closing documents. That is, yes. So we need someone to guarantee the loan. That's, yes. Mhm.
Warren, do you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask her, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask her about calling her. I'm one of the, not one of the new ones. I'm like a newborn baby with this. I'm just fresh. I really am trying my best to get all the information needed, but the process of meeting with her, even looking at the conversations that I've seen here, I don't think I'll be a great candidate to get a loan, but
Mhm.
what's the process of me trying to get her to see an application from me, but also as like you and LaShawn are walking me through the process of what I'm doing with a 501c3, how would they be able to, are they willing to help walk through a process the same way, like what y'all doing with me on the 501c3, and they help with that, like on the loan process? And the thing I asked about that, because I just found a building that I can be in, and the thing I'm trying to do now is probably get 3 computers, because some of the guys, it's okay when you have, people need to get education, but like a lot of people come to me because they don't want to go to a church, but to get them comfortable there with me. But for guys that really might not want to go back to school, to have some kind of way that they can learn on a computer to encourage them or to motivate them to take the next step necessary. But if she's willing, does her organization does the walkthrough process similar to what y'all doing with me with the 501c3? Is that did I ask it right?
I think so. I think
Did I ask the question?
You did, Warren. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think, yes, we would definitely, we could sit down and you could tell me, more about the building, or about, the cost of the computers, and we could just go from there and try to figure out, what your goal is and how we can get you there.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I was talking about a moment ago, Warren, in terms of like, okay, so you're ready to level up, but the level that you're aiming for is still not one that is quite ready to submit an application for a loan like this. But now you know that this loan fund is out there, and it can be a goal of yours to strategically work your way to the point where you have what you need to acquire this funding and pay it back without any worries. We don't want any of our members to put themselves in risky financial situations or add to the stress, because Lord knows you all have plenty of stress and pressure on you and what you're doing already. And then utilize this funding to then, get you in a position to be a strategic applicant for that CHSP recurring funding that we want you all, leveraged for, and that sort of thing, so that you can get to that point where the money's rolling in, and you can pay yourself, and you can reach the people that you're wanting to reach and service, to fulfill your passion for the community.
And let's say that, another avenue you could take is that since the loans can be, you could just get a $5,000 loan. If we work through the application process on that 5,000 loan, it gets approved and you pay it off, on time and everything's good. Then you apply for a larger loan when you have, a little bit more funding, and the loan review committee already knows that you're a great borrower and that you pay on time. And they're so much more willing to approve the larger loan because we have a history with you now. And, it's that character part of the credit issue, that the more that the loan review committee knows that you're you're going to pay on time and you're working your hardest, then the sky can be the limit. We've had some clients who are on loan number 11 over the past 30 years.
Wow. Okay. That's really good to know. So those of you who, might say I could use $5,000 for, technological equipment for my facility, you could aim for that and then come back in a year or two looking for, the 30, 40 grand that you would like to secure transportation for your clients and that sort of thing. So that's really good information, Jana. Thank you so much.
And speaking of the transportation aspect, if you were if a van, a transportation, type of situation, you're looking to buy a van, that's one thing we could look into is purchasing the van, putting a lien on the van, so that ARPC holds that van until you pay it off, and then the van is y'all's. And
wow. Okay. There you go.
So that's, and that's what I mean by like the case by case basis. It really just depends on what the type of, what the loan is, and then we think, okay, well, how could we work it so that it fits within the parameters of the program and is a benefit to the client.
That's really good information. Well, we're always happy to wrap up early. We don't want to keep people on just for the sake of running out the minutes. Does anyone have any final questions before we sign off?
Oh, if you wouldn't mind, after the program, if I could send a couple of documents that you could send out, and then
absolutely. Sure. Just send that to me and I'll send it to everyone on the call. So members who are with us today, keep an eye out for that email coming through later today from me.
And then, on the screen, that's my, the best way to reach me is my cell phone. The office phone, I don't trust. It just, sometimes the voicemail picks up and sometimes it doesn't. So, cell phone is always good and email is always good, and text as well. Text me on my cell phone. Just explain who you are, so I'm not clueless.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jana. Thank you, Sharon. We really appreciate your time and your wisdom and everything that you're doing to move Tallahassee forward for our nonprofits, particularly in human services. And thank you to all of our members for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope to hear from you guys.
Y'all stay dry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Miss Catherine.
Bye.
Bye.